Welcome back to Shittywebcomics Weekly, brought to you by our Subscribe Star backers. Donate to become a human again. A human pay pig.
Hey, you're back. You're back. Right? You're finally awake.
You're back.
That's our new catchphrase. You're finally awake.
Yes, you listening to our videos, huh? You're finally awake. And all you can say is Baltimore Orioles #1. But donate to our Subscribe Star to get access to the real videos that tell you the real truth, the real unforgivable truths, and the nightmarish prophecies that the rest of YouTube does not want you to know about.
We need to quote more from Francis E. Deck.
Yeah, but also we are the modern equivalent of Francis E. Deck, except even better, of course. We're even better. We're just better. So Francis E. Deck needs to start quoting us. That's what he needs to do. He won't. He's gay then. Getting back to the Yakub, the wonderful classic, already instant classic series of comics about Yakub. Here is the royal family of the Ebenoids in Egypt or Mecca. It was Mecca, the Egyptian kings of Mecca.
Yeah, remember, Africans invented Mecca.
Yes.
Don't get it twisted.
And they were the kings. They were the rulers of Mecca, of course.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget that. That's important. But
very important.
So that's the council, the king's council here in Mecca, all sitting around, and the caption says, "At the king's council, they hold wild discussions about the growing albinoid threat." And one of the council
because the main danger is from Albanians.
Yes, apparently Albanians are just truly a nightmare, according to the Yakubian lore. But this guy says, the whites have become a nuisance. 8 of my men killed, my merchandise destroyed. We must take action against these pests. As Orson Welles would describe, these albinoids, these white devils, are such pests.
Such pests.
In the depths of
their ignorance, what do they want?
Whatever it is they want, they can't provide it. Anyways, the next panel is just a couple, like another guy in the council who was sitting next to the previous guy who was talking. And he says, we should have killed off the albinoids when they were fewer. There are 10,000 of them now, breeding like rats. Just like that reference, of course, classic reference to Bad Boys 2, when Martin Lawrence watches 2 rats fuck and says to Will Smith, they fuck just like we do. As in him
clearly
and Will Smith.
Indicating him and Will Smith.
Yes. Which is, I don't know if that was appropriate of Martin Lawrence.
Very inappropriate. But also, this we didn't really go into too much detail, but it's amazing how many very unpleasant implications that these Yakubian or whoever,
the Ebenoids, yes,
yeah, the Ebenoids are making about white people, and all the things they really hate about white people. It's very interesting, the specific things they hate about white people.
The comparisons to animals and the white people's violent nature. Again, yeah, we did mention this. It sounds like
now it's gone beyond that. Now it's even worse because now the white people are outbreeding the Ebenoids.
Yes. Again, it all sounds very familiar. These complaints sound very familiar, as if the complaints were heard from somebody else about a different group of people in some other way, or maybe even possibly several other different groups of people throughout history. It's a similar complaint that groups of people have had about other groups of people that they tend to like.
Is it a valid complaint, though?
Perhaps. Is
Clearly,
there something to it?
A valid complaint, because these Ebenoids wouldn't be talking about it otherwise.
Yeah, how about that? What's going on with that? I don't know. I guess that's for the reader to decide. This comic leaves the reader with some interesting questions to ponder. Very interesting.
Very ponderous. Ponderous,
man. Really ponderous. I went to bed one night Or I had a dream one night. I went to work and nobody knew who I was. Nobody that used to get played on the fucking radio of all things.
I have no idea why it was played on the radio regularly.
I don't
We
know,
heard
but
it
I liked it.
multiple times.
I really
And it's
liked it.
like, what is it? You know, I think that's just because that station would play weird and niche
Well, it was a pop
things
music station, and
every now and then.
that was considered part of pop music. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
just these weird, goofy
for
loops.
anyone, yeah, for anyone who doesn't know though, what we're talking about is a song by a band called 2NU. That's how it's spelled, and that's how it's pronounced, I think. And the song is called Ponderous. And
This is very important to the discussion about Yakub.
yes, yes, it is. But also, more importantly, is that the song was a sly reference to the outtakes of Casey Kasem.
Casey Kasem, yeah.
Yeah, if you look on YouTube for the Casey Kasem outtakes for like American Top 40, or it also what was that the Negative Land song?
I'm still looking.
Oh yeah, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. U2 cover that's like special edition or something, and it starts with the Casey Kasem outtakes. But in it, Casey Kasem is like just chewing out everyone, including the producers. Where are those pictures I was supposed to see? And
As
that kind of
somebody
shit.
who's like had a massive career as being like just so affable and friendly, he's the friendly radio voice,
Yeah,
and he's just going nuclear on this
because he was the
crew
voice of
around him.
Scooby Doo and Shaggy
Yeah.
also, or at
Did
least
he voice
Shaggy.
Scooby Doo? I know he voiced Shaggy.
Yeah, he voiced Shaggy originally. Yeah, and yeah, and he just had a great radio voice, and then of course behind this, and it's funny because he wasn't even abusive. It just sounds like a couple times he was
It
just really
sounds like he's
stressed.
stressed.
The first time was he was oh yeah, that's right, he was doing a dedication for a dog who died, and then they go into apparently some happy song, and he's like, what the fuck is this all about? Why are we doing this? Just fucking. But during one of his meltdowns, he starts just going ponderous, man, fucking ponderous, and it's like so 70s, and for some reason, like early 90s or late 80s, some guy, I think based off
There
of
was a
those
lot of,
outtakes, did a
I would
song,
say,
and
a
that was
lot
the
of that era.
2NU song.
The
Ponderous.
80s in particular had a lot of like Jerky Boys and whoever inspired The Simpsons to do a lot of the uh, phone pranks that Bart does like, on Mo.
The 2 bar prank calls with Red. Red,
Two
this
bar
is
prank
Red.
calls. And then there's Ray and Pete.
Yeah, that's right. Shut up, little man. With it. Oh yeah, that's yeah, the inspiration. Oh yeah, that your unbelievable song by who did unbelievable? Not NoFX, but
It was like EMD
oh
or
yeah, I think it was called
not
EMP.
OMD,
Yeah, I
but it
don't
was like
really. Yeah, don't mix them up with OMD, of course. OMD is also a
very
delightful
important not to
new
make
band.
that mistake. But yeah,
But they did, yeah, unbelievable that song, and that has just a clip of Andrew Dice Clay going, oh, and also,
sampling became
yes,
really huge, like right around there.
who else? Who's that? The shitty kind of shock rap band, Two Live Crew.
Live Crew.
They did the Fuck Shop. Literally just rips off the riff from "Ain't Talking About Love" by Van
Yeah,
Halen.
Van Halen.
Yeah, and when I found that out, I was like, oh, this is that Two Live Crew song.
On
No.
top of Me So Horny, a whole song.
Oh yeah,
Was
that
it
used to
called Me
get
So
radio
Horny?
play too. I think "Me So Horny" got played on the radio because that was their sort of work safe song. I think.
And
But
I don't remember, but the fucking it's a clip
yeah, it's
from
from Full Metal Jacket,
yeah.
the Vietnamese hooker. Half of these Vietnamese hookers, they fuck officers. The other half fuck TB. So make sure you only go with the ones who cough. That's just again such a bizarre. I think that movie. Speaking of which, Full Metal Jacket is like half the dialogue in the Vietnam section. It's just like memes from that era of things that people would say, and sort of the sayings would spread, like little private jokes like that. Like half of these
That
hookers
entire
fuck
section of the
officers.
movie is underrated. A lot of people are like, oh, the movie starts to suck after the halfway point. It's
But
like,
yeah, I
no,
mean, there's so many great parts. What about the fucking the guy who's like, "Whose side are you on?" Son? That whole scene, that's in Vietnam. That's a
yeah,
great scene. The
yeah.
helicopter door gunner, the guy who was originally supposed to play Sergeant Hartman, that guy's great too. That guy was a real guy too. If you read Dispatches by Michael Herr, who was the an
Yeah, I had
advisor
no
on the
idea.
movie
That's the thing
script.
is, I have to be honest. That is a great idea. They just straight up lifted sequences
Yes,
from dispatches
that's what I was
because
talking
they're like,
about.
oh, this is so awesome.
That line of when Joker says, you know, half of these Vietnamese prostitutes, he says. I don't think he uses those exact words, but
He uses a colloquialism
yes, a local
instead.
colloquialism. But he says, you know, half of them have sex with Viet Cong or VC officers, and the other half have TB, tuberculosis. And so he says, so make sure you only fuck the ones that cough. That's probably some line that got spread around in Vietnam by, you know, the American soldiers all the time. They probably all said it to each other as a joke. Sort of like there's like 50 different Zippos from guys in Vietnam that like have engraved or scratched into their Zippo lighters that say like, I will fear no death, for I'm the meanest motherfucker in the valley," or whatever, you know, that kind of shit.
Well, also all kinds of stuff on their helmets and then stuff on their lighters.
Yeah, like the piece button on the helmet with "Born to Kill." That probably wasn't the only. There probably wasn't just one guy. In fact, I
Yeah,
think that was also
in
referenced in Dispatches.
dispatches, they mention it in dispatches. Like
Yes.
there was a lot of things. There were a lot of helmets that had this one saying on it.
Yeah,
It's like,
like
okay, yeah, that
goofy,
makes sense. That explains a
tongue-in-cheek,
lot.
like little jokes that the American soldiers would just have with each other. And there's a lot of weird gallows humor and that kind of stuff too among the soldiers, and that was in Dispatches. And the best example of that being displayed was in the Vietnam section of Full Metal Jacket, because as great as Apocalypse Now is, it didn't really have that so much. Although it did have the surfing stuff with was it, or not Sergeant Kilgore, but it was Colonel Kilgore, I think. But that was like pure Michael Herr stuff from Dispatches, because Michael Herr also was an advisor for Apocalypse Now and for Full Metal Jacket. And stuff from Dispatches just straight up got taken or put into both of those movies, and that's why those movies are great. The greatest parts of those are those parts, and the you know, the writing. Though the worst parts of those movies are the Francis Ford Coppola stuff that he wanted
Yeah,
to add
the more
himself and add
the
in.
more that Francis Ford Coppola added, the worse it was. Everything that was John Milius is brilliant, and everything
Yes.
that Francis Ford Coppola was pedestrian as fuck.
Yeah, the surfing stuff you could tell is also very John Milius. The
Yeah.
stuff that Francis Ford Coppola adds is stuff like when they machine gun an entire boat of Vietnamese people over a puppy. Of course, it would be a puppy, the cutest puppy that they could possibly find in all of Southern California. Of course. That stuff is the Francis Ford Coppola parts. And the stuff
Francis
where,
Ford Copium.
yes, and the stuff that makes war look totally badass is pure John Milius. And
John
then the
Milius
weird
was a
ironies
gangster in
of the
general.
war is like pure Michael Herr, which
Well,
was
there's
again
also something
better.
from the Redux
Yeah,
version though. They cut like entire French plantation that drags the movie down,
yeah,
just bogs it down immensely.
which was kind of interesting just to see. But when I rewatch the movie, I don't want to see any of that shit because, like, I don't care. It's not as fun. It's not fun. It's not really as
Yeah,
interesting.
it's basically there for completion's sake. It's like, oh, I would love to see more of the movie,
Yeah, but what?
which is perfectly fine. There's nothing
Yes,
wrong with that.
yeah, I like that. I can see that, but I when I want to watch Apocalypse Now, I want to watch the original, the theatrical cut. Just like with Payback, the theatrical cut is the best version. Um,
That's a really good payback is a really good example of
yes,
like making sure not to underestimate the talents of Mel Gibson.
we're so yeah. Mel Gibson saved that movie basically by taking it over secretly. He didn't even take credit for it. It still says the director Brian Hegeland, even on the theatrical cut where Mel Gibson basically took it and redirected a bunch of it, and I think rewrote big chunks of it or something. I mean, I saw the director's cut, and the entire last half of the movie is like almost completely different, and it's not
It's
funny.
not a terrible movie, but
No,
yeah,
not
a lot
really.
of the fun and the heart and soul of the movie is actually in the Mel Gibson version,
Yes,
which is the one that got to theaters, as
not
far as
even
I know.
forced soul, but yeah, that's yeah. We watched Payback on movie
It's a
night.
different form of forced soul. It's called enforced soul.
Yes, but yeah, we watched Payback on movie night, and I think it took people by surprise at how good and fun and entertaining it was. It was just a fucking. It
It
was
didn't
a real
surprise me.
crowd
I've seen the
pleaser.
movie multiple times.
Say
It's
what you will
great.
about Mel Gibson, this son of a bitch knows story structure.
That was also the thing about Get the Gringo too. And I'm expecting, because
Yeah.
it's like I've never heard of this movie. Apparently, didn't have any theatrical release at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, he goes to a Mexican prison that's like a Mexican city. I hear this concept.
Yeah, it's like a
It's like,
walled-in
this sounds
town.
like it's
It's
going
like
to
a
be
village.
dour as fuck. It's going to be the saddest movie. It's going to be like the Schindler's List of Mexico.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, it was
The
directed
boy
by
in the
Mel
striped
Gibson, and Mel
pajamas.
Gibson stars in it too. And it's like, oh, that sounds awesome, actually. He's going to have action adventure inside of a slash city slash prison in Mexico. That sounds like it could be based AF and a lot of fun. And sure enough, that's basically what they're doing.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent movie. I liked it. Yeah, I remember liking it. I don't really remember anything about it
But
aside from the
again,
fact that Mel
and
Gibson's in it.
some other director or script writer or whoever, you could imagine, again, it would be like The Pianist, but
Yes.
in Mexico. Oh, you don't know how hard they have it. And that's the whole, and it's 2.5 hours long, and that's all that happens in the movie. But you tell me Mel Gibson is in charge of the movie. He directed it and he's starring in it. It's like, oh, it's going to be the backdrop for a bunch of fun adventures and stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing about like Apocalypto that took me off guard is Apocalypto is much more watchable than you would think. Because again, it's like usually a Hollywood movie, it's like, oh man, what's going on? But it's
Because
like
that's
kind
actually
of
the
a
thing, is the
big
Passion of
chase
the
scene
Christ.
movie.
The Passion of the Christ, it's sort of like the triumph of the will
Yeah,
of
there's that.
Christianity.
That's kind of an exception. That movie was still watchable. Like we went to see that in the theater out of curiosity.
Yeah, it's very well. Again, it's like Triumph of the Will. It's very well made.
Yes. Um, is it basted with red sauce pills too? Hey, I don't know. It's not up to me
Perhaps.
to decide. You know what? We're still only two panels. I thought we'd been more than two panels
Oh,
into this. We
no,
are.
we've gotten off track so many times. It's great. In fact, we don't even now we can make this another episode.
But you know what? I will finish this page. We'll finish reading this page. Look at this free content that we've just given out to. And again, if you want
Better.
to
This is
see,
the taste. This is what a lot of people probably won't be getting if they're usually just watching the free videos instead of the
yeah,
paywall.
exactly. That's the thing, though. Our subscribe star videos are more focused, but also just as in depth, with just as much delightful, entertaining, fun, insightful, delightful and insightful things like this. So if you want way, way more, and you want to support the
I
people
have
who
to
are
admit, I'm
actually
taking some
in the
performance
know,
enhancing. I'm taking performance enhancing drugs to make me more interesting. Mentats. It's the mentats of the real
we
world.
both slam down. We're both now addicted to Mentats, which we'll just cure with an addictol after this. Hey, no problem. No
A
big deal.
mentats, which is absolutely a Fallout reference and not at all a Dune reference.
Yes. It's oh yeah, that's right. But this is it's like the Gep gun takedown. No big deal. So
Which is the most important thing to know about the Gap Gun takedown.
yes.
Which is that it is no big deal.
And it's the perfect stealth weapon, of course. Um anyways, just let's finish this again, it's one of the king's advisors, some old guy here. Wearing a black hat, though, but he says, we should have killed off the albinoids when they are fewer. There are tens of thousands of them, breeding like rats, each new generation more cruel than the last. More cruel than the last. It's true that we're still
Yeah,
outnumbered.
it's amazing.
We still
What
outnumber them
next thing you're going to
population-wise.
tell me is that they're all drug addicts too. Next
Whoa.
thing you're going to tell me is as soon as they get their paychecks, they spend them all immediately.
these albinoids are living in the ghettos of the mountain caves and shit. They're truly like
Fucking
savage animals.
how much more how much worse can it get for these albinoids? They're going to be living in large apartment blocks where they fuck each other constantly
It's some
because
kind
no
of
one knows who their father is.
project. Anyways, he says it's true that we still outnumber them population-wise, but how many warriors do we have? Meanwhile, every
It's true that they're only 13% of the population right now.
yes, but how much crime do those
Specifically,
albinoids commit?
13%.
Yes, it's they outnumber them population-wise. It's like a good 75-ish% in comparison. Interesting. And he says, this guy finishes by saying, meanwhile, every breathing white man is a beast, created for the sole purpose of our destruction. And a lady speaks up. This time I'm sure it's a lady, because she looks like a feminine coding. Whoa. And she says, listen to yourselves. You're arguing for genocide. Whoa, what? You speak of the albinoids like they're animals. Remember that their common father is Yakub, one of us. Doesn't that make them human? Interesting. And next panel is her again saying, when I hear talk like this from my own people, it fills me with such great sadness. It makes me feel that we are in fact the evil ones, not them. Whoa. And off panel, a couple people saying, who let this cursed humanist in? And another saying, ha ha ha. And she replies saying, what if instead of kicking the albinoids out of our city when they first arrived, we would have been welcoming? What if we would have given them an opportunity to learn the truth about who we are instead of the lies that Yakub has fed them? So in other words, having a tolerance. And maybe she's saying that diversity would be the strength of Mecca and the Ebenoids. She says she ends by saying, "I'm convinced that if we just opened our hearts, if we just taught them our ways and our culture, we could make the whites our friends and allies. I'm certain of it." And then underneath that is a caption saying, "Oh, women, this eternal source of childlike naivety."
Even this
or naivety.
Women.
Yes, this woman. Anyways, so again,
is there anyone on Earth that does not hate women?
Is it even the Ebenoids? They should have known, perhaps. Truly, this was the downfall of the Ebenoid civilization in Mecca, the Wakandan civilization. Anyway, so again, check out our Subscribe Star. In fact, the Subscribe Star should have the full compilation already of all the episodes of this, including the future episodes that haven't gone up yet, if you want to watch all of that in a nice combined singular huge white man video essay sized video. So yeah, go donate to us on Subscribestar or however watch which. Check out the links below to also support us and spy on us or whatever. And for everyone else, should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.